Welcome! I am so excited you are here because in this video, you're going to discover the best and worst papers to use with paint sticks. Now, the information I'm sharing here is really coming from my hard-won experience with experimenting with paint sticks and papers, trying different things and seeing how they would work. And I've organized this video from my least favorite papers to my most favorite paper to use with paint sticks. Now, before I get too deep into the paper options that you have, I wanted to cover what are paint sticks, just in case you are new to them or not familiar at all with them. So, a paint stick is essentially like a little glue stick of paint. And they are so much fun to work with. They're very easy. You don't get paint on your hands or your clothes. It's very hard to do that. They also dry really quickly. Most of the packaging says 90 seconds. Sometimes I use a hairdryer to speed up the process while I'm working if I want, but they're really, really easy and fun to use. They're often marketed to kids, but you don't have to be a child to love using them. And they also come in a ton of colors. So you have a lot of the traditional color options, traditional bright colors, but then they also have metallic palettes as well as neons. So it's just, there are a lot of options. You can mix and match and blend them as you would like. Next, if you find value in this video, I ask that you like this video and subscribe to the channel because those are the best ways that more people like you can find this. My least favorite paper for using with paint sticks is actually cardstock. Now, it can work, and I'll get to that, but some of the drawbacks to cardstock is that it is really thin, and because there is moisture in paint sticks, it often will cause the paper to curl. So think about a time when you had a book that got wet and it dried out, but then the paper is just never quite the same. It doesn't have the same texture. It's kind of wrinkled or curled. That's what tends to happen with cardstock. Now, the one exception is if you do go rather light. So this actually was a babysitter was at our house recently and was playing with paint sticks with my son. And I love what she created with this. I think it's so beautiful. And it did work well if you're not using the paint sticks very heavily. But what I like to make with paint sticks is I tend to layer them. And so with those layering techniques, and that's much of what you see on this channel, the cardstock just does not hold up to that. It doesn't hold up to the moisture, and then it also doesn't take the tape very well. So when you peel the tape off, it rips every single time. It's going to rip the original paper that you're working on. So cardstock can be a good option, like I said, if you're using the paint sticks lightly, but if you want to do the layering technique that you see on my channel quite a bit, then it's just not going to hold up to it. Next is acrylic paper. So I thought acrylic paper would work really well with paint sticks because it's designed for paint. It's designed for more of this type of paint than opposed to like a watercolor paper or, cardstock. Cardstock is not designed for paint. Even though I was using a high quality acrylic paper, it actually didn't hold up to the tape that I use in my art process very well. So it definitely did better with the paint sticks. So it's a viable option as long as you know that it is going to rip with the tape every single time. I have tried using acrylic paper several times, and every single time the tape has ripped and it's destroyed the piece. So while acrylic paper does hold up to the moisture in the paint sticks better, it doesn't curl the same way cardstock does. It couldn't take the tape. The third option, and my absolute favorite for paint sticks, is actually watercolor paper. And I believe it does the best job because it is actually designed for moisture. I mean, it's in the name, watercolor. If you want to do those layering techniques and you're using a heavier handed approach with the paint sticks, the watercolor paper does a really nice job. So I brought a couple options, and you can see it does curl just slightly, but it's not changing the integrity of the paper, and that isn't anything that just pressing it under a book wouldn't fix. If you're going to frame your work, it's also going to be just fine in the frame. It really doesn't harm the integrity of the paper. Okay, so then we need to talk about the quality of the watercolor paper, because here is again where I've had some challenges. Now, I traditionally have used the Strathmore 400 series and really liked it. But then I was trying to get cheap. I was like, I want to save some money with my art supplies, so I'm going to buy a cheaper watercolor paper and see if it will work. And I have used this brand of watercolor paper, the Canson watercolor. I have used this with actual watercolor, and it's been great. It's been just fine. But for paint sticks, again, the challenge was it wasn't thick enough for the tape. So when I've tried to do the layering technique with this cheaper watercolor paper, it has not worked. It rips every single time. So if you're seeing the stuff that I'm making here on this channel and you're frustrated with the watercolor paper that you're using, then it might be the quality level. So I want to show you what I'm using. This is what I'm using. Do you see it? This is it, the Strathmore. It's the 400 series. Yes, this is it's a giant piece. It's crazy. I started with the 9x12. And then, like I said, I was trying to be a little more economical with my art supply purchases. And so I looked at surface area because I was cutting down my 9x12s into smaller pieces. I particularly like the 5x7 size is really nice because then it can go in a picture frame quite easily. And I've also done 8x10s out of that. Again, just so I can frame it easily. If you cut your watercolor paper to standard frame sizes, then they're very easy to stick in a frame. Because of that, I discovered that the 12x18, like, see this baby? Like, he's so big. The 12x18 just gives you better surface area. I've been really pleased with it, but it's also gigantic. I've only found one size larger than this, and believe me, I'm very tempted to order it. I also went with this really big size because I wanted to play around more with more and more complex patterns. I was finding that with a 5x7, you're really limited to how much you can do. I was limited by how many layers I could really, pack into a piece. And so that's why I invested in these bigger sizes. And I don't even have any of the smaller ones left. But there's 400 series. Now they do have a 300 series that is cheaper. I think it would be more in line with this Canson paper that I showed you. So I think the quality is a little less on that one because it's a cheaper paper. So I go with the 400 series every time, and I've been so pleased. Now, every once in a while, I will have a tape issue. So one time recently, I tried layering metallics. So I did two metallics back to back, like on top of each other. And what I didn't realize was how much paint stick I was really using. And what happened was the paper actually just got too wet and it wasn't fully dried before I applied more tape. And so then when I went to take the tape off, it just destroyed the paper. Like the paper was just peeling off into big holes, and it was bad. And so actually that was a great lesson because I learned, like, oh, if you layer metallics, you have to be really careful. And it is much harder to get the metallics to cover well. They're just not as thick of a color. So that's why I really love the Strathmore 400 series watercolor paper. I know it's very specific, but you can find it, wherever you're buying craft supplies. That's what you want to look for. All right, so those are the top 3 paper options, my thoughts on them. I just prioritize them from my least favorite to my most favorite, which is the watercolor paper. And if you are looking for more videos on art supplies, I recommend that you check out this one because in it I cover my favorite art supplies that I've picked up this year. Thanks so much for being here.